what we do is we do a weekly session where we go into some of the things that we do with Test AI, some of our capabilities. We like to show off. And so that's what we do. You know, we're here to demonstrate what it looks like and what it means when you put AI first in testing, when you're able to use AI to improve and make more resilient all aspects of your test suites and your test platform. But yeah, I mean, let's give about 1 minute. Make sure we get everybody in who's been registered, and a couple quick notes. Yeah, so a couple quick notes from this session. We've got a chat. We've got chat and Q&A. Please feel free to throw things in there. Got Jeroen here, and we'll have other people on as well who can let me know if you guys have a question. Let me pause for a minute. I do like to talk, and so anything we can do to, break into that, ask questions, it's extremely helpful. All right, so again, thank you for coming to Test AI's Thursday test session. Essentially what we do is every Thursday, we like to go into a different aspect of Test AI, whether it's test creation, machine learning, our SDK. We like to brag. We like to show off a little bit because we're really, really excited about what Test AI does and what it means for the future of testing. Now, a quick bit of introduction. My name is Seth Stradling. I am a sales engineer at Test AI. I am a former test automation engineer. I spent a lot of my career around Selenium, Selenium, Python, JavaScript, built my own frameworks. Did a lot of interesting stuff, really, really, really enjoyed it. But I've been really excited to see what Test AI was doing. And so I came over to the dark side and became a sales engineer just because it's really cool what we do here. I want to talk a little bit more about it. All right, so today's session, we're going to talk about using reinforcement learning and computer vision to improve your test suites and your test platform. And the goal with this, again, with Test AI, our goal is to use AI, computer vision, and machine learning to create tests that are robust, that are flexible, that are easy to build, easy to create, easy to run, and easy to maintain. The goal is ultimately to bring AI into your testing in a way that you would with a manual tester, where you get to the point where you can say, just test this, take this path. You need to click on these and move forward. You don't have to get back into the code. You don't have to rely on the DOM. You don't have to worry about what happens when your developers change platforms or identifiers or anything else. The goal is to remove any and all friction possible between you and the platform on which you create your tests. So let's get into this a little bit. All right. And yeah, let me know, again, we've got chat, we've got Q&A. Feel free to pop questions in. I'll take a pause. It's good for me to take a breath. I like to talk a lot. But yeah, so our agenda today, I want to go over how Test AI works and what we do. Then I want to get into testing a little bit. I want to show you a test where we use reinforcement learning, machine learning, computer vision to build and maintain tests. And then finally, I'm going to open up for Q&A, and that should take us to the half hour. All right, Test AI is a AI-powered vision-first platform for interacting with your app. What that means is we use bots powered by machine learning, powered by reinforcement learning and supervised machine learning to understand your application, to understand how to interact with it, to understand the different elements of your application, what to do with them, and to understand the context in which you are going to be doing your tests so that you can build test cases in the way that you would talk to a manual tester. Click on this, go here, look for this, instead of having to do a lot of additional work to teach your bot what to do. The other goal of this is to make it so your bot is testing the way that a human tests. Because we're visual first, we're dealing with not just functional testing, but we're dealing with user experience testing. We're dealing with performance. We're dealing with, essentially if something doesn't load correctly on your screen, or if it takes forever to load on your screen, it doesn't matter if it's in the DOM. It matters whether or not it's something a human can interact with. And that's what we're testing here. And because we're able to do that, we're also able to very grossly simplify gross is the wrong word there, dramatically simplify the effort it takes to build and maintain tests. Because we're teaching your machine learning models, we're teaching these bots about your application, how to work with it, the actual process of adding steps to a test or creating a new test becomes much simpler. It's much more drag and drop and point and click. And that means that also your maintenance becomes a lot simpler, a lot more drag and drop, point and click. If your user flows change, you let the bot know. If a element changes or your backend changes, if your developers have decided to play the old let's change from Angular to React trick on you, the bot doesn't really care because, again, the bot's visual first, the bot's UI first, and the bot's able to ignore changes in your DOM and changes in the underlying code, as long as it doesn't affect the user experience. All right, so I'm going to touch on three main things that we do with test AI here. First is element recognition. This is going to be the majority of what you see. Essentially what happens is we've trained our bots on interactions with something like 800,000 different applications to understand different elements in an application, to understand buttons, understand tabs, understand labels, to know how to find them and know what to do with them. Additionally, we use reinforcement learning to help your bot learn and understand the broader context of your application. This is auto navigation, the ability to understand where something is in your application, how to get there, what the most efficient path is, things like that. And finally, because we're vision first, we were able to do cross-browser and cross-platform testing. We build a test on one app. If we build a test in one browser, we don't need to change the driver or anything else to run that test on another browser. All right, any quick questions before we dive into the actual demo? All right.
No questions.
Oh, okay, excellent, thank you. All right, so quick overview of the demo. What we're going to do is we're going to build a couple test cases. We're going to use it to explore a couple different aspects of testing. And doing that, we're going to be exploring the application. I'll show you the application in a moment. Oh, how do we train these bots? All right, Sonny, thank you for jumping in before I got into the demo there. So I'm going to show you what we do to train the bots. The bots we use have some general training already. Like I said, we have done a huge amount of prior testing and training on a huge number of different applications on different platforms to teach the bots about how to interact on I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to click answer like some. So yeah, in order to teach the bot how to interact with applications on a number of platforms. But what I'm going to show you now is I'm going to show you how we go about training the bot specifically to deal with your platform. And that has to do with user interactions here. All right, there we go. I lost my mouse. Okay, and back up one, escape. All right, so for a quick bit of introduction, I'm going to hide that. Quick bit of introduction here. This is our test AI store. And this should look very, very, very familiar to everybody because this is built on the same framework that 90% of the stores on the internet are built on. This is WooCommerce and WordPress. And that makes it really, really easy to put a store out, especially for somebody like us. We're not in the e-commerce business. We don't actually stock any of the items in the store, so please don't order anything there. It does allow us to have an excellent sale though. But the good thing is it lets us get a store up quickly and lets us run and maintain it very, very easily. The bad part is we have next to no control over the underlying code. And so this is a perfect test bed for test AI because we don't care about the underlying code. So what I'm going to do is I want to do a couple different things. The first thing I want to do is I want to show you what happens with our reinforcement learning in action. So we've got the store, we've got the ability to go to different spots. We've got different items in stock. We've got different pages, we've got my account, we've got contact us. Don't email here because frankly, we don't check this email address either. We're really bad we're excellent testers and terrible store owners. We'll just put it that way. But so we have this page. We want to do a couple different tests here. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set our bot loose to just explore. I'm setting up bot mode is where we let the bot loose. We let it use this understanding of general applications to start navigating the system. And what it's going to do behind the scenes, I'm going to kick this off, put in a test AI store. There we go. And talk about what's going on behind the scenes really fast. So behind the scenes, our bot's launching the app, it's pulling up this page, and it's going through, doing what we call chopping. It's going through every single one of these elements, is identifying different elements, looking at how it might want to interact with them. And in this case, it's identifying elements it can interact with and explore. And while it's doing that, it's also collecting data on where everything is. So it's keeping track of how it got, we're at the About Us page. It's keeping track of how it got there, where it came from, where it's going, what buttons it clicks to get there. And the more we do these sorts of crawls, the more information it gets on the overall graph of your application, the overall linkages between different items and elements. I'm going to show you that in just a moment. So right now it's going and it's consolidating all the information it collected from that crawl. And here is some of the data it collected. So this is an application graph. So this shows some of the linkages, it shows some of the different paths that our bot has taken. And that is extremely helpful for us to be able to collect a huge amount of data very, very quickly. Now, what I'm going to do with this data, because it's not just supposed to be a pretty picture, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to see whether or not we ran into any sort of error messages. That's a wonderful first thing to do when you're doing exploratory testing and crawling, is let's see whether or not we found anything. So no 404s. And here we go. We have an error page. Let's pop this up. This page does not seem to exist. So let's go ahead. Let's find where this page was. Let's build this out. Okay. So I'm going to create a test here. And what I'm doing with this test here is I want to make the bot retrace its steps and find out where that error is. And all I have to do here, and this is the glorious thing about this. So we have this here. This is an error page. And what's happened here is this little green tab here is a label that we've assigned to this page. And so this updates the information that the machine learning model has. It makes it smarter. And so in the future, if it comes across another page that looks like this, it will know, hey, this is an error page. It'll keep track of where it is and what to do with it. And so we'll be able to find these, flag them, test against them, navigate to them in the future. All I'm going to do here is, since I don't really know how we got there, I'm going to tell the bot to navigate there again. And the navigate step is such a cool step because this is where all of our machine learning comes into play. We've used supervised learning here for element labeling, but we're also using reinforcement learning to understand how to navigate the application, how to get back here. And this is useful not just for error pages. Say that you've got a series of tests that start at one particular page, and you don't really want to code in the elaborate path you've got to take to get from your original landing site to, say, user accounts, to authentication, to admin, We do a navigation step that will roll you all the way over there without having to do a bunch of extraneous additional coding. So we've got that there. Go ahead and run this test. I'm going to run this against test.ai store. I'm going to pick out nav to error, and we're going to run this test. And while we do this, it's just going to chew through. Our bot's going to look at the application graph that it's built. It's going to look at its understanding of how our application fits together, and it's going to go ahead and it's going to navigate to that error page and tell us how we got there. So give this just a moment. All right, it's looking back at what it did. There we go, contact us page. And so we do have link is broken link, but I know that doesn't go there. Directory. All right, so it is the directory button that is broken. So we can do that. We can look at that directly if we have time to spend watching it, but we can also go into the test results here. Let's wait for this to pull up in just a moment. All right, there we go. Let's consolidate all that information. We can go into our visual test results reporting. Look at this exact same path. We can see exactly what the bot looked at. See each screen, we can see what interactions, we see how long it took for the page to load. We see where the bot clicked, and here is our suspicious page right here. So there we go. Yep, we click on the directory button. The directory button leads to a broken page. We file the bug, we tell our developers, and we get that fixed. All right, so that's our application of reinforcement learning. And before I get into building other tests for your test suite, any additional questions?
Just give a minute for people to react.
Perfect. All right.
So there is a question.
Oh yeah, Suni's got some great questions here. All right, let's see. Can go ahead and click that one. So if you have thousands or millions of products, it might take days to create this graph. And that is, of course, a good question of scale. What we'd end up doing there is we have deduplication in the application to help prevent an overload of data in the graph. In other cases, we might want to be more directed in how we build the graph and how we bound our exploration, so we don't fill the graph with extraneous data, and so that we can give the bot a good representative example of what products look like and how to get to different products, and then use other methods for handling the millions of products you might have to test against. Hopefully, you're not testing every product on your site.
Sunny, I think it's a valid point. It also depends on your objective, and some customers, they just use the auto explore for the new pages that they have on their website. So you can combine a manually created test, which brings you into a certain part of your application, with the exploratory testing that we just showed you, and that is the next part of the demonstration. I will show you how most customers, actually, the way they start with test AI is to create manual test cases that they can control.
Yep. All right.
Okay, more questions. So let's go. Let's take the questions.
All right. So we've got a bunch of different questions. So I'm going to take these in order really fast. It says language independent. So that's not Pi has asked whether these tests are language independent, whether we can run them in English and French. So our bot is not language dependent. We're able to train the bot in different languages and have it interact with different language sites. All right, so let's see. Colby Norton, do you run the graph creation with each screen size you support or want to test? With that one, we generally try to run against standard screen sizes, but you can run graph creation against any screen sizes you want. I'm not sure if that's answering your question quite right, but with visual first, our bot takes into account a variety of different elements when it identifies and classifies elements, including location on the screen, visual aspects, text, proximities, things like that. And so we'll get into that a little bit more as far as how it affects test creation in just a moment. All right, so Suni, what happens when we need to test dynamic workflows for applying promo codes? So I can get to into that in just a minute too. So we have the, essentially what I've showed you at this point, okay, sweet. Yeah, so what I've showed you at this point is the autonomous crawl. And like Jeroen said, we use that for general data collection, for helping to accelerate the initial collection, labeling, or for working on a new area of your application, new bit of functionality. But we try not to use it over and over again for all test creation and for workflow development. So I'm going to get into that in just a minute. I can talk to you a little bit more about how we work with applying promo codes and things like that. All right, excellent. Any other questions before I dive into the next bit? All right. Okay, so the other aspect of what we're doing here. So with that crawl, we collected a whole lot of information. As you see over here, we've got a variety of we've collected a bunch of different screens. I'm going to pull this one up really quickly. And for each screen that our bot has looked at, it's gone through and it's parsed the screen to find different elements. So we've got a view of the screen right here, but over here we can see it's found shop now, find more, contact us. It's found a variety of different buttons. And so now that we've collected all this information, we're able to go through and we're able to build test flows for user experience flows. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to create a new test case here. Excellent, there we go. And I want to go through, I want to do a very, very basic test flow here. The test flow is we're going to go in, we're going to find sorry, my mouth just got dry for a second. We're going to go in, we're going to find an element in the store, we're going to add to the cart, we're going to verify that it was added to the cart. And I think, given what Sunu is asking about, let's go ahead and add a promo code to it as well. So here we go, let's go ahead, let's find. I want to go to accessories, and here we see we've got a couple different labels. This green label, this yellow label is something where a machine learning model has interacted with applications like this before. And so it's recommending labels that we might want to use in building our tests. It's saying this looks like an accessories button. I've seen this before. In this case, I've given it a specific label, button accessories, that helps me keep track of buttons versus images versus text. So I can go ahead, I'm going to take this, and it's literally just drag and drop. Drag it, drop it. And before I get any further, the other thing we want to do is we want to start another exploratory session. I want to let the bots loose again. In this case, I'm doing it in manual mode, where the bot and I will work together step by step and piece by piece. Essentially it'll be, the bot will tell me what it sees. I will tell it what I want to do. So here we go. The bot's back in. It's back behind the scenes crawling the page. And here's pulling in all the information that's collected, all the different elements. So let's go ahead. All right, we've got button accessories. And here you see it's yellow. I'm going to click green to reinforce that bit of information with our machine learning models and give it a little bit more training. That is our add to cart step. And as you see here, I'll just redo that one. So we're going to drag and drop. We're going to take this accessories, we're going to drag it onto this action step here. So I'm creating test steps here. And our first step, we just want to click on this accessories element. And so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to tell the bot to go do that, and we'll watch that here. There we go. And so because we're interacting live with our bot, because this is a cooperative session here, an interactive session, we just tell the bot what to do. It does it, and we're able to validate that the bot has seen what it's supposed to see and has done what it's supposed to do. All right, so we have that. Now that we're in this page here, I'm going to clear that out. In this case, we want to look at this. I'm going to take the anchor bracelet. If you look really, really closely here, it's not an anchor bracelet. There's hearts. This is the thing that entertains me about this, is every time I look at it, I'm like, that is not an anchor bracelet. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to pull that guy up. I'm going to go ahead, find that larger element right here. There we go. And here I'm going to Image anchor bracelet. I've gone ahead, I've labeled it. This gives the bot specific context for our app. I've retrained the machine learning model to understand this. And so for any other test we build, for anything else in the suite, if I update this in the future, our bot will always know that this is the anchor bracelet we're talking about. In the same way with as a manual tester, you only have to tell them once, hey, that's the anchor bracelet, go click on it. And then in the future, you don't have to worry about retraining them. That's the anchor bracelet on this page, that's the anchor bracelet on that page. We literally just have to do that once. So I've trained that there. We're going to click on it again. And then I've actually built a subtest here, so we don't spend all my time building tests here. So I'm going to pull up an existing test case. This existing test case, let's see this. There we go, subtest add to cart. So this is something where with whatever item you're looking at, whatever item in the store, it will go ahead, it'll add it to the cart. Click on the add to cart button and click on the cart to verify. And then the last thing we want to do, I want to validate that we do in fact find the anchor bracelet elsewhere. And the other wonderful thing about machine learning here, all right, I'm dragging that, there we go. I'm bad at dragging today. But the other amazing thing about machine learning is I've got this one example of this image anchor bracelet here. I've got another one here. If I was to add this to the cart, we'd be able to see it in a different aspect in the cart, different size, different resolution, different position on the DOM, different class, different ID, different everything. And for here, it does not matter. I've trained the machine learning model to recognize this is an anchor bracelet. And it's just going to go ahead and recognize it. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to stop this crawl now because we can go ahead and run it. Stop this crawl. I'm going to tell the bot we don't care about what's going on the page right now. And now we're going to set it loose. We're going to run one more test. And while we're running the test, does anybody have any other questions? There we go. Let's run this test. All right. All right, so yes, let's see. Do anything aboard on that side there in the chat? All right. Excellent. So what we're seeing here is our bot, we've trained it to identify the anchor bracelet. It sees the add to cart button as add to the cart. And we have a test failure here. And so now we get to talk about test maintenance. And so this is the other really great thing about test AI. So when we go in, we find something, validate add to cart, could not find button cart. We get to go back into the test results and visually validate what it is our bot was looking at. We can verify that our machine learning model worked correctly, that's looking for the correct things. And if something's not right, if something's not correctly labeled, we can go right into the test results. This pulls the screen back up. It re-chops it, lets our machine learning model reassess the page here. I'm going to go in and here we go. So every so often our bot will filter out things that finds less relevant. It'll say, I'm not sure this is as relevant given the interactions I've seen with other apps and other trainers and other testers. But in this case, it's hit something that was relevant. And this, if you can see over here, this is our shopping cart, shopping bag. I generally just call them carts. So there we go. I've just trained our machine learning model. We can run this test again and boom, validate add to cart. And the glory with the wonderful thing with this is if your developers change, if your UX designers change something, they can say, you can literally just go in, click and say, okay, this has been updated. We're updating the machine learning model. If you're doing A/B testing, you can train your bot to recognize, it's literally as simple as that, to train your bot to recognize both options of a UI element or anything else. We're literally just training machine learning model the way you would train a human tester. We're saying this is valid, this is valid, this is not valid. Take this path and click here. All right, so there we go. We've got our successful test case here. We validated add to cart. Our updated machine learning model identified the cart button here, so you can see. And as you notice here, we didn't have to this is a much smaller version of the anchor bracelet here, but we didn't have to train the machine learning model to recognize a smaller one. We didn't have to do anything special. We just said, that's an anchor bracelet. Please see if it's on the page. Doesn't matter where it is. Doesn't matter where it sits in the DOM. Doesn't matter what identifiers, class names, or anything else are associated with it. We just care visually the way a human would care visually about it. All right, any quick questions? We are running close to the half hour.
There's one more question.
Oh, sweet, I see it. Oh, thanks, Warren. All right, runs random. All right, so the crawling runs random every time it runs. Yes. So our bot randomizes how it goes through and it clicks things, and we can find different paths through. That's how we found that error page with that crawl. And if you look, I'll just show you really quickly some of the parameters we do. We have the ability to, run a huge number of flows, huge number of steps per flow. Next version of this, we're also having the ability to, we're outside the ability to add, tests up to a, script up to a certain point, so we can navigate to a certain point in your app before you start these autonomous crawls. And then as far as how the crawls cover the complete functionality of the app, because it's random, we do not use this to we do not use it to exhaustively cover every possible bit of functionality in the application. We've often found that that ends up producing more noise than value, when we try to get to every corner case. But it's also just a matter of how you want to balance and what your goals are in your testing. Whether we can do much larger, much longer test flows to try to get into the corners. We can do shorter ones that are more targeted. It's just really a matter of what your goals are in testing.
Oh, there's one more, two more.
Oh, sweet, we've got more. Oh, wow, this is an auto scroll for me. All right, Vasanth. All right, so web UI elements fall under different iframes with both explicitly switch to frames and with a bot explicitly switch to frames to capture the elements. So because our bot's visual first, it doesn't really care whether an item's in an iframe or not. It'll go in, it'll visually capture it, and it's going to be I think the primary issue you might run into is if you've got some coarse, cross-site scripting protections that might limit our ability to interact. If you've got something specifically protected in an iframe, then there's ways to go around that. But that is also a security feature of browsers that we try not to abuse too badly. All right. So bots, click and select on item bias index. First time on the return list. Yes. So we can train bots to recognize, because our bots look at elements. I'm going to go to store here. Because our bots don't just look at image, they look at image and position. They look at text on the image. They look at text in proximity to the image. Look, we have 88 different inputs into our machine learning models that we use to validate and understand an item an element in relation to the application. And so you can train the application to pay attention to location on a page or location in a rank. So I could train it to look for the first row, first cell, first row, second cell. I can train it to look for these. I can also more specifically specify, I want to go to this drop-down list and find the third item on the list. So there's a variety of different things we can do to look at positioning that way. All right, validation part is non-deterministic. All right, so validation essentially, again, that comes down to the goal of your testing. What I've shown you is basic validation, where we're looking to verify that particular item is on a page. Particular item, particular text. We have the ability to get more in depth into scripting, where we can look at particular aspects of an element and pull more data out of it, pull the text out of the element, pull position, size, proportions, things like that, and position on screen, and do more in-depth validation of that. And
that's actually also possible using a script step. So we could always add in a script step that looks at the data that's being returned on the page combined with the images, and based off that, do a custom type of validation.
Exactly. And so with that, we're able to pull more data out, do more in-depth validation. We're able to validate the non-existence of objects in that case. And there's a variety of other things that we can get into with that. We also have on our roadmap diffing validation, where you can do more general validation of screen appearance and things like that. All right, we are coming up close on the half hour. Do we have any other questions really quickly? So I do want to show we've got this demo here. I want to show a very, very quick preview of our SDK, just sort of give you guys an idea of what we're going to be talking about next week. And for those of you who have, let's scroll down, make sure we don't have any other questions right now. Excellent. So for those of you who have experience doing Selenium or other test automation coding, we've built the ability to take what we do in test AI here and plug it into your existing test frameworks. So we can wrap Selenium, wrap these other frameworks with test AI and make our identifiers and make our ability to use machine learning available in your existing code base. Just to show you a quick preview here. This is a quick test that does the same test that I did in Selenium. And here we've got all these different selectors. And as you can see, it just becomes a nightmare to manage them. But in this case here, so I've wrapped this with our test AI driver. I'm able to pull in test AI's understanding of our button accessories button and use that as a backup in case we don't find this, or in case that changes. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and forego all the difficulty of using Selenium entirely for these and rely entirely on our elements. There we go. And run that. And then we have just taken Selenium and we have plugged test AI and our AI first capabilities directly into your Selenium scripts in 3 extra lines of code. Any last questions before we close? We're on the half hour. Oh, put the slide. All right, there we go. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and run that up. Let's give 5 minutes over the hour to answer any other questions.
Yeah, Warren has one question.
Oh, all right, sweet. I didn't see that pull up. Oh, Warren, thank you. All right, I'm going to pop that up here. First test you showed found the error message. That's fixed. Test is now valid. It's looking to get the message. So what we would do here in that case is I would take that test case. I don't want to leave that test case how it is. I use that mostly just to explore where the bot was going there. But I changed that test case to validate on the actual expect, that went to the directory. So I'd validate it on the expected page content or on expected page images and allow that to be, this is where we get into behavior-driven development, test-driven development, where I now have a failing test. And then once the developer actually fixes it and pushes it, then that test would start passing again. I wouldn't want to leave that test the way it is. That's a non-deterministic test. But that's an excellent question. Thank you. All right, last questions. All right.
So the navigate function and the auto explore, they can be used in many different ways. Today we just showed you one example that came up while we were doing the practice run, but you can also think of it yourselves, like how would you like to create a test that is defining the expected behavior. So it's not meant to be as the only way that you can use this solution.
All right, so let's see, last question here. It's really quickly from Suni. SDK is only for Python. No, it is not. We have released the Python version. We have the Java, we have Selenium Java coming out in the next week or two. And shortly after that, we're working on releasing Appium, Cypress, and other platforms as people, just as the demand grows for it.
And Suni, I'm going to make sure that once we have it for Java, which I know a lot of people are looking to have, I will give you an update on an email, so you'll be on the lookout for that. So as soon as we have the instructions for that, we'll give it to you.
Yeah, we'll send
also, that. By the way, so everything is downloadable on our website, so you could do a trial right away of what we've shown you today. It's on the portal.test.ai link, and then for the SDK, it's on sdk.test.ai.
And I just heard from our head of product, Kevin Piles, and he just said that Java is now available. So we will be sending that on to you. And I'm so excited to that.
Great.
That's as of this morning. Excellent. All right. Oh, that's exciting. All right. Anyways, any last questions before we close the session? And also, if there are specific things you want us to cover in a future session, please feel free to ping us, talk to Jeroen, and just let us know about things you want to see in future sessions. We love new things to do, and so I'm excited to hear what you guys have to suggest. And again, next week, Thursday, is going to be Thursdays with Testing with Test AI, and we're going to get more in depth into the SDK and talk about what we do with that.
Great. I'm going to send a link to an article that was just posted on LinkedIn that talks about the availability of Java Appium for the SDK, as well as the Python Selenium version of it.
All right. Excellent. Yeah, no, they released it while I was in the middle of talking about it.
Kobe has one more question. You want to take that one?
I just do that. Yes. Okay. Test cleanup. You add records during the test. You want to clean them up after the test is done. So we have Jeroen mentioned our scripting API. And so we use that we can also use that for test setup and teardown. So call into different APIs that you have, look for the data that's been created during the test, delete it. So we use our API, our scripting API, to handle test setup and teardown. All right. Now, thank you everybody for joining. We'll give 1 minute for any last questions, but thank you so much for joining. Thanks for coming. Please feel free to download Test AI, download the SDK, start playing with it. We are excited to hear how you use it and answer any questions you have. All right. Thank you all very much. Have a great day.